We have a man who was with Trump when his political career really was launched, the former campaign manager for Donald Trump way back when. Corey Lewandowski joins the program. I'm actually going to put up the video of that down the escalator moment and everything, because today, for a lot of people who covered Trump then, felt like kind of a flashback moment. He hasn't done many Trump Tower events. This was June of 2015. He and the soon-to-be First Lady at the time, Melania, coming down the escalator at Trump Tower, which is where they were today. A lot's happened today. Now, your old boss is a convicted felon. I mean, what are you thinking about?
Here's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about just 8 years ago when Donald Trump came down that escalator. No one really took him seriously, and he really changed the political world that we live in. But what we've seen over the last 24 hours has been a mischaracterization of justice, because what Donald Trump has been convicted of 34 times is a paperwork violation. He attributed a document to his attorney, which he paid for, who was a practicing attorney, for legal advice. And then they said that he made a mistake. Now, the Federal Elections Commission, which would normally have jurisdiction over this issue, chose not to pursue this matter. And the federal government chose not to pursue this matter. And to put this in context, 8 years ago, Hillary Clinton did exactly the same thing. She paid a law firm to come up with what we now know as the fake Steele dossier, and she categorized it as legal expenses. She ultimately paid a fine for it, which was the right thing to do. But she wasn't convicted of 34 felonies, and I think the American people are now voting with their pocketbooks, and that's why we see this massive outpouring of support for Donald Trump.
Yeah, I do want to ask you about it, because, a number of analysts kind of made similar cases to us. Some legal analysts did, at least, coming into the trial. But as you know, now the jury disagreed with that. They convicted him, all 34 counts. And to your point, since that moment, and I was there last night at the courthouse, the money starts rolling in. So I've said it a few times on the show today. I don't think we know the true political impact of this verdict. Everybody had a theory going in, but we do know it's helping the former president raise a lot of money. What's the impact of that, and will that continue?
Yeah, look, there's no question about it. People, I think, across the country are outraged at this verdict. Look, this was a trial that lasted 6 weeks, and we saw these jurors take less than really 2 full days to come back to a conclusion of guilty on all 34 counts. I mean, it's pretty amazing when you think about it, that not one of those counts he would have been found innocent on over a 6-week trial. We heard from a number of witnesses, many of whom perjured themselves on the stand, and within almost 48 hours, they came back and said absolutely guilty. If you go back and you listen to the closing statements from Trump's attorneys, they continuously pointed out the mistakes that Michael Cohen has testified to, the fallacies he's testified to, the fact that he was a convicted felon and had his own agenda here. So to me, the timing of the jury to act so quickly seems to me like the fix was in from the very beginning.
I want to put up the statement for a moment and then ask you a question about it from the Biden campaign on this. And we'll just read through this. We showed it earlier about the threat Trump poses to democracy. Democracy's never been greater. He's running an increasingly unhinged campaign of revenge and retribution, pledging to be a dictator day one, calling for our Constitution to be terminated so he can regain and keep power. So this is the kind of campaign we're going to see, Corey, as you know, no surprise, back and forth. Do you have any concern about independent voters? I call them the Haley voters, for lack of a better term. Then maybe not independent, maybe more Republicans who voted for Haley. Them being the ones, you don't need to lose much for it to impact a state, right? So do you have any concern that it might go the other way for Trump and might be what prevents him from being elected?
Look, we know that those independent voters, those swing voters, and really those women who are in the suburbs who are making family decisions are the ones who ultimately determine the outcome of this election. When you look at Pennsylvania, you look at Wisconsin, you look at Michigan, Donald Trump won Michigan in 2016 by 10,704 votes and lost it in 2020 by about the same margin. So these margins are exceptionally small. And what are we hearing now? Look, if you are an individual and you have to choose between Donald Trump or Joe Biden, and the economy is a factor for you, meaning are you better off today than you were 4 years ago, then every single time you're supporting Donald Trump. If you care about national security, you care about homeland security, you care about border security, you're choosing Donald Trump. So Donald Trump has a built-in advantage here because we now see Joe Biden's record. And look, Joe Biden is 82 years old or something of that nature. He looks very frail. And I think America wants someone who's tough and strong to fight for them. Look, I didn't support Joe Biden, but I wanted him to be successful because I want my country to be successful. Unfortunately, over the last 3 years, we haven't seen any success.
Do you still have a relationship with Trump? The only reason I ask you that, Corey, is that you're somewhat unique. There are others, but a lot of people who work for Trump, and we've done stories on this, have turned on him and don't get along with him. The Bill Barrs of the world, there's his number. You could go through the list, but you're still quite supportive, even though I don't think you work for him directly. Do you still keep in touch? You still talk to him?
Oh, well, look, I spoke to the president yesterday before the verdict came out. I've had the privilege to be a part of his world, his political world now for almost a decade. I believe in his policies. I believe in putting America first. I believe in taking care of our people and making sure our veterans are taken care of, and we have a great economy so everyone benefits. So
do you think he has any
have
concern about going to jail? I mean, did that come up in the conversation at all, just from a practical standpoint now that it's not completely off the table? Is he thinking about that, do you know?
Well, we didn't talk about that, but look, I find it very interesting that the sentencing hearing is on June 11th, just a week before the Republican convention.
Right. Yep.
I'm sorry, July 11th,
yep.
Right before the convention's about to start. And it is the purview of one person, and this judge only, that can determine if Donald Trump will be remanded or not. It is an amazing responsibility. And what we've seen from this judge is that he has failed in his job to be unpartisan. We know that he's given money to the Biden campaign. We know that his daughter is a paid operative, which is perfectly legal. But his bias has shown in his jury instructions, and his bias has shown throughout this trial. So I think there has to be some real concerns about what this judge is going to do. And I heard today a number of scholars say they believe the Supreme Court should get engaged in this once this sentencing hearing is finished.
Okay, Corey, thank you for coming on today. Corey Lewandowski, this is Trump's first campaign manager going back to the 2016 campaign. Thanks for joining us.
You bet.
All right.